So you move in Abilene, Texas, but you're really curious about how much it actually costs to live here. The kind of stuff that nobody talks about, like the water bills, the power bills, the property taxes, all those things. What I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be breaking all of that down and showing you exactly how much it costs to live here. If you want that information, let's get after it. What's up, everybody? It's Daniel DeVore with the Frontline Real Estate Group at Fathom Realty, right here in Abilene, Texas. If you're new to the channel and you want to know exactly what it's like to eat, sleep, live, play here in Abilene, make sure you tap that subscribe button and you hit the little bell so you get notified every time we do a new video. We honestly get so many phone calls, texts, emails every single day of people moving and relocating here, and we absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about moving anywhere in the Abilene area, make sure you send us an email, call us, shoot us a text. Days, nights, weekends, it doesn't matter. We got your back when you move into Abilene, Texas. Hey everyone. So we're going to be going over, like I said, the in-depth costs of what it takes to live right here in Abilene. Just to give you kind of an idea, I moved from South Carolina here to Texas, and one thing about, and maybe it's the same everywhere, I'm not sure, but one thing about there is you pretty much had one energy company and you paid that energy company and they kind of supplied all the power. And that's just how it worked. And then I got here to Texas, bought a house, and then started researching like energy companies. And I was like, hey, who's the energy company here? And they're like, oh yeah, you can choose your energy company. There's like hundreds of them. And I was like, that's kind of weird, but I mean, that's just how it is. And then I don't know, it's a little overwhelming, to be honest, and a little confusing at first because there's just so many options to choose from, and it's just so different from what I've seen before. But I want to give you a couple of good websites to kind of use to go off of to help you with your energy costs, because energy costs here in Abilene are expensive, especially in the summertime. My average bill, and my wife and I are pretty conservative with our energy usage. We keep, I know some people are like, oh my gosh, but we keep our thermostat around 78 in the summertime. Yeah, that's a little warm for most people, but we're comfortable and we want to save a little bit of money. But our average, I think our highest energy bill last summer was around 250, something like that. And it's going to vary for people because, sometimes you have water heaters that are gas and other things like that. But anyway, here's Direct Energy is a good, directenergy.com is a good website to use to kind of compare it compares the costs and it compares the customer service, because some of these companies do not have very good customer service. So that's a great website to go to figure out, who's the best, who has the best prices and who has the best customer service. Because when you call into a company, I've dealt with some that are pretty bad, and it's nice when you have one that does a really good job at customer service and they just take care of you. Now, another good one is Energy Ogre, and it does cost $10 a month, but it's basically automated for you, or so they say. I don't know how true it is. I mean, I use it currently, but I haven't compared it with like directenergy.com to kind of compare the two. But what they do is they kind of manage it for you. You sign up with them, you put in your payment information, and they pick a plan for you. And it's kind of hands off, really. They pick the plan for you. They pick the cheapest plan, and then they make an account. Like literally, they make an account with your name, all your information, and they just sign you up for it. And there's a lot of people that use it because it's really great, because it just picks the lowest rate that there is. Another thing that if you use Energy Ogre, you can't get this. But one thing my wife and I like to use is, a lot of the companies around here sometimes they have promotions of like free nights. So from like 9 at night till 7 in the morning, you get free electricity basically. And so if you have if you had like an electric car, if you do a lot of things at night, that might be a great plan for you. And then there's other ones that do like free weekends, or another one that does like 8 free days or something like that. You just have to research it. And that directenergy.com is a great website to do that. One other thing about the power bills here, or energy companies, is most of them, to get the best rates, you have to sign usually like a 12 to 36 month contract. And obviously the longer the contract, the better rate you're going to get. That's weird to me too, because, you just have one energy company where I'm from and that's what you use. And then there's all kinds of different ways. They have like delivery charges. There's one company that it's like the forward-facing company that does the energy, and then the actual people like doing work on the poles around here in Abilene is called AEP, and then they charge that company, and then that company charges you for what they do, delivering the energy basically. I don't understand it completely, but yeah, it's different. So going into another thing that's cost of living here in Abilene is internet. And there are major companies. There's 3 major companies that you can use here in Abilene. There is one, it used to be called Suddenlink. Now they just rebranded it to be called Optimum. And they are a sucky company. I'm not even going to lie. And you'll hear a lot of people say they're not that great. I think they tried to rebrand to get rid of their reputation. They just didn't have a good reputation. And I've had them since they rebranded. And just to kind of give you an example of one reason why they're not that great, is almost every day around 7 to 8 p.m., the internet just goes out for about, sometimes only 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, and then sometimes 30 minutes. Or if it doesn't go out, then it gets super slow. And when you're watching TV, it gets all pixelated and granulated and all that. And then their customer service, oh boy. I'm not even going to go into it, but their customer service isn't that great. But the thing that really sucks about here is, in Abilene, is there's some places like the neighborhood I just moved from, that was the only option. It was Optimum. Well, not exactly the only option, but the only hardwired option, if you want to call it that. But anyway, that's enough about Optimum. Then there is a company called Taylor Telecom. Now, I've heard really good things about them, but one of the kind of weird things is I think they're a co-op, and you have to have, I think I called them up and they were like, hey, yeah, we can get an account for you, but you have to have our power bill, or you have to have our power as well. I guess they have power, they're an energy company, and they're a internet company. And I don't know if I remember right. It changes, but their rates weren't the best when I was looking at it, and I just thought that was kind of weird. But I have heard really good things about them, so don't discount them for that reason. And then there's Vexus is the other one, and they're not available. They're only available in certain sections of Abilene. But I haven't heard any bad things about them, and they have really good reviews and everything like that. So if you can get Vexus, I would say go with Vexus. And then there's a couple other little options. There's one called West Tex Connect. They use kind of like a little satellite dish thing, and it's not satellite internet, but it looks like a satellite dish. It's almost like I think it's like a cellular antenna or something like that. Anyway, I've heard pretty good things, and the only thing my mother-in-law has it, or my in-laws have it, and their internet it works, but it's pretty slow. So that's one thing to consider with that. And then you can always do like a mobile hotspot option with like AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile. Sorry, I got my list right here. And I mean, that's just kind of, it depends on where you're at. Certain companies, AT&T is probably the best cell phone company around here. And then probably Verizon after that, and T-Mobile, and then the rest. I can't even remember all the rest, but yeah. So I mean, I had AT&T hotspot, and I was using it for internet for a while, and it was pretty good. That was a few years ago. But that's another option. And then there's Viasat, which my wife's grandpa used to have that, and it was okay. It didn't have the best speed, but and I think the hardware cost is kind of expensive. But what I have right here, right now, that I use all the time is Starlink, and that's, if you don't know anything about Starlink, it's it's Elon Musk's company, and basically you have like it doesn't even look like a satellite dish, but it's a little satellite thing, and the hardware cost is about $500, and then it's about $130 a month. And as far as like the internet, I know I talked about their reputation, but as far as the costs go, I think it's anywhere between like $50 to $100 a month, depending on the speed you want. Starlink is expensive, but I live out in the country, so it's probably the best option for living where there aren't any other options. But it's $500 one-time hardware cost, and then $120 or $130 a month. But it's very good internet, and it's fast, and it doesn't hardly have any downtime, and it gives you like stats, like very detailed stats of like your downtime and all that kind of stuff. I really like it, if you can't tell. And I just respect Elon Musk. But anyway, so going on to a next cost that we have here in Abilene are taxes, property taxes. So Texas doesn't have any income tax, but they get, where they don't have that income tax, they make it up with property tax. And property taxes, I mean, not just in Abilene, but in Texas in general, are pretty high. And I've seen some as high as about 2.5%. So if you do the math on that, that's about $7,500 a year in property taxes. Break that down, that's what, a little over $600 a month just in property taxes. But what I want to help you do is to mitigate that as much as possible, because that's what we do as real estate agents, is I can show you the places that have less property taxes, how to mitigate some of those property taxes. But one thing about that, just to kind of give you some insight, is the newer developments always have higher property taxes, unless you're out in the country. But in general, the newer developments are going to have higher property taxes, because what they do, the tax assessors, they go and look at the outside of buildings, and then the newer houses are always taxed more. If you have, a little shack, but it looks great on the inside, you're probably going to have lower property taxes. Now, I'm not saying go put a bunch of crap on the outside of your house, and then, I'm not saying that at all. Don't try to evade taxes. I'm not purporting that. But anyway, and then there's another thing, is there's some areas that have lower property taxes in Abilene compared to other areas. But I can just give us a call and shoot us a text, an email, doesn't matter. Like, we'll help you out. We'll help you find the best areas for what you're trying to achieve. Because that's what we specialize in, to be honest. And then another thing is, if you live out in the country, for the most part, a lot of places you're going to have a lower property tax. And if you have, depending on the county you're in, if you have a certain amount of acreage and you get ag exemption, then you'll have a lot lower property taxes. But like I said, I'm not going to go into that too much in this video, but contact us. We can help you out with that. Give you all the details on it. Because really we love having that conversation and helping people find what they're looking for, and getting those lower property taxes if that's what you're after. Now, water bill here in Abilene is one thing that, comparatively to where I've been before, it's a little high. And not completely sure why, but it's definitely $20, $30 a month higher than some of the places I've been. And that's even including Fort Worth, which is, a lot bigger city than here in Abilene. But if you even there's another thing that we had. If you have a bigger water meter, because some houses have bigger water meters, then you're going to have a higher water bill, which is kind of weird, but guess I understand it. Now, if you're a yard guy or yard girl and you really want to keep your yard green, because remember, if you don't know, Abilene and this part of Texas in general they have a lot of droughts here, and it just doesn't rain. Like last summer, it didn't rain, but like maybe one time the whole entire summer for like 3 or 4 months. It didn't rain at all. And so if you're gonna, water in your yard, you have to water it a lot during the summer. And they actually the droughts get so bad sometimes that we have watering restrictions, and it's better to get a well if you want to water your yard a lot, because technically it varies, but some months you can only water your yard like once or twice, technically without well water, like 2 days a week. And if you're so a normal water bill that I had before, I think it was average 120. I had a bigger meter, so if you had a smaller meter, because I had an irrigation system, I think that's why they had the bigger meter. But about $120 is my average water bill, and I watered enough to keep it pretty green. I think I was watering 2 to 3 times a week. Now, if you really want to keep it green, keep it luscious, you're watering 3 or 4 times, maybe even 5 times a week, you're going to be looking at, $200-$300 water bill probably. So that's just a cost to consider. And then another thing is, if you live outside of city limits, there are different types of water companies. They're called water co-ops, and prices vary on those just because of the number of people and things like that. But if you buy raw land that doesn't have any kind of water on it, a lot of times those cost, and what they have to do are feasibility studies to see if you can even get a water meter because of the size of the pipe and all kinds of other things. But if you can get one, I've seen costs just for the water meter as high as $4,000 just to install the water meter. So that's something to think about for sure if you're buying raw land, or if the water meter's been taken off the land for some reason. But that's definitely a thing to think about when you're looking at buying. Now we're going to get into, kind of some of the little nitty-gritty things. Pest control. Mosquitoes, especially like when it doesn't rain a lot, there's not a ton of mosquitoes. There's still mosquitoes, but not a lot. But when it does rain a good amount, mosquitoes are rampant around here. And you can get one of those mosquito companies to come out and do your whole yard for around $150. And they only have to do it I think it's like every month or two, depending. And the price is going to vary a little bit depending on how much land you have. But that's something to think about because the mosquitoes are abundant and they're huge here and they hurt. And then some people are more, allergic to them, like some of my daughters. Now, if you're a hunting guy, there comparatively to other states, there's not a lot of, forest or hunting land, public hunting land around here like there is in other states. So if you're going to be hunting, if you're going to be hunting, you're going to have to get a lease. And the typical lease is and that's for the whole season, I think, or year. I'm not real sure. The typical lease is from $2,000 to $3,000. If you want to find one of those, there's a lot of Facebook groups that make it pretty easy to go find some. Here in Texas, you can get around, it depends on the county, but it's usually about 3 or 4 deer, like 2 or 3 bucks and 2 or 3 does usually. But it changes from year to year. So just something to think about if you're really into hunting, because there is a lot of hunting land around here. Well, that's all I've got for the cost of living. We went over energy, we went over water bills, we went over hunting, we went over pest control, and then we went over property taxes. Those are your, those sneaky costs that a lot of people don't think of and not a lot of people talk about, but they're definitely something to consider, because when you add all that up, it adds up to a good amount, and it's definitely something you got to factor into your budget. But if you guys are looking at moving here and you have any other questions, anything that I didn't go into, we got you back. Give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. The only way that we can help you out is if you shoot us a call, send us a text or an email. But until next time, see you in the next video.